What type of job seems appealing but ends up being quite disappointing? Story 1, veterinarian. Expectation. Oh, lots of animals. Reality, death. So much death. There's a reason that field has some of the highest suicide rates. I only worked in a pet store, and the amount of insane pet parents, abusive, ignorant owners, and pets that were definitely not living their best life was heartbreaking. Vets get even more insane, angry customers and heartbreaking cases. I befriended a few vet techs and vets, and their mental health is almost always in the dumps. Story 2. After 4 years in the military, my biggest complaint was the lack of sleep and the irregular schedule. First job after that was a security guard. I couldn't believe how lucky I was getting paid to stand there and do nothing. Until that job, I had not realized how much I would hate being bored. Story 3. Working at a flower shop is just like any other retail position, but everyone assumes it's more enjoyable than it really is. Assisting families in selecting flowers for funerals is definitely not the fun part either. Story 4. I work as a scientist. I'm not sure if people generally view that profession as enjoyable, but I believe they expect it to be filled with more eureka moments and a lot less, I have to manually process this data for 600 hours before I can start analyzing it. Story 5. I often see graphic design touted as an escape route for people who find themselves wanting to change career. I honestly think it's pretty irresponsible of the people who run these courses promising that, as it's a really difficult industry to get into. And even if you can get into it, it's then really hard to get the fun creative work you were picturing when you signed up. I'm sure a lot of people end up disappointed. Story 6. Big Law. The pay is incredible. The work is unbelievably stressful and exhausting. A lot of people tell me that they also work a lot, but constantly being mentally on for 50 to 70 hours a week, analyzing deals in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars around a bunch of cutthroat, brilliant, high-functioning A-type personalities who are ready to pounce at any mistake, is a whole different level of mental exhaustion that sucks away your ability to do anything, enjoy anything in the time that you do have outside of work. You end up spending so much money for shortcuts just to make life work out, living close by the office, food delivery, cleaning, dry cleaning, the grand gestures when you can't reliably be there for loved ones, etc. That you don't actually pocket nearly as much as you think you do despite the high salaries. I am so glad I finally made it out after many years of grinding and went of counsel. I still get paid reasonably well, but the hours are dope. Story 7. Nursing. Became a nurse to help people and do cool medical stuff, and I did that. I also got yelled at by patients and other staff, spit on, hit, choked, demeaned, worked 16+ hours sometimes, and frequently missed important family events while working on weekends. Story 8. When you work a shitty retail or food service job, being slow can seem appealing, but over time it erodes your soul. Time slows down to a crawl, and over long enough periods of time the culture will shift to where everyone treats the job as waiting out the clock, and all forms of work are interruptions of your scheduled phone time. It can destroy a culture, and that's before you start talking about losing hours and whatnot. Story 9. A travel blogger job seems appealing with its promise of adventure and free trips, but it often turns out disappointing due to constant deadlines, unstable income, and the pressure to always perform for social media. Story 10. Trades. You see the common wisdom spouted time and time again, and it's always along the same lines. Don't go to college. It's a waste of money. Get a good job in trades. The money is a lot better anyway. Let's assume the pay is the same or better. On the whole, it's not. There are always outliers and exceptions, but in general, a 4-year degree always pays more, and often much more, in the long run. Even if this is the case, trades are still worse. Why? Trades have much higher injury rates. Trades have much more frequent and longer periods of unemployment. Trades have much higher suicide rates. Trades have higher divorce rates. Trades die on the job a lot more than anyone else. Trades abuse alcohol and drugs more than other jobs. This tends to get glossed over all the time by the "my friend is a plumber and makes $130K per year and has 3 houses" crowd. Story 11. Architecture. Architecture is a very weird medium to be in comparison to other art or science professions because it's kind of both, or either depends on which side of the trade you're doing. But fundamentally it's an odd place to be. Let's say you're a painter, you think of stuff, then you paint it. Same if you're a sculptor. But you rarely, if not ever, see an architect going out and physically building his/her own shit. It relies on others to make it happen, and in the end, you're actualizing someone else's dream, using someone else's money, relying on someone else's labor. So you can take pride in being a part of it, or not. The pay is relatively low if you're not licensed, hard to break 100K unless you're deep-rooted in a company in a big city like New York. Long work hours are expected because it's a noble tradition in architecture. from academic level to professional level. Lots of planning and deadlines are always around the corner. In the end, you're in the service industry. Instead of a 5-minute deadline for a cheeseburger at a drive-thru, it's a 6-month deadline for a design or a set of drawings or construction. There's always something. Story 12, sales specialist at a motorcycle dealership. People always tell me I have their dream job. Like, no, I really don't. It's still sales, and it's a hard and brutal job with long hours and sometimes little pay when you don't sell, especially when you can't control interest rates. Story 13. I'll say with a caveat that I personally enjoy it, but have seen a lot of colleagues become disillusioned after finally making it. Doctor. A lot of people see it as a prestigious career that earns tons of money and is rather cushy. The truth is quite different. Patients can be the rudest, overly demanding, and entitled people you can work with. Some treat you with respect as they are the ones who actively need your services and recognize you have years upon years of knowledge and experience under your belt. But many, if not most, couldn't give a damn and will have a duality about them where they both want you to help them, but also think you don't know anything and will dismiss what you say. Especially if it isn't a quick pill fix, along the lines of, you need to change your life in some way. Also, medicine is a dirty job. People think of the shirt and tie doctor in the white coat. Yeah, some people like to pretend they are working in some office setting. The reality is your tie will get soaked in random bodily juices during CPR. You'll get blood and feces on your nice shoes, and some guy having a psychotic break will grab at your tie and have a nice lever by which to try to seriously hurt you. But I still really like my job. It allows me to flex my critical thinking, keeps me active, and does give me a feeling that I did something meaningful day to day. But a lot of my younger peers come out of training ready to quit because they simply don't know what the job is going to be like. What you see before clinicals, either on TV or what you're exposed to during high school, college, is limited, and not a good representation of the job itself. Story 14, I took environmental science with a focus on climate science. I was going to save the world. Now, I'm watching it burn, and every time I see a news article about slowing North Atlantic currents or permafrost explosions in Siberia, my climate depression increases. Being able to recognize and understand the subtle progression of the feedback loops is a curse. Story 15, managing a strip club. I dated one for a couple of years, and I can say there is absolutely nothing appealing to the job behind the scenes. It may appear to the customers that it's all about running a bar full of naked women, but in reality, it's about breaking up petty fights between dancers, dealing with unruly customers, and working for owners who don't want to pay bills and are always looking to find someone cheaper than you as a replacement. And when someone possesses, uses, buys, or sells drugs on the premises, the police will also take a long, hard look at you and how you run things. Story 16, working in the TV, film industry. Some days you get to do some cool stuff, but most days it's long, hard, exhausting work. Thankfully, in the last few years, our days have mostly shortened to 12-hour days of work, but I still very vividly remember the 17 to 18-hour days 5 times a week. Plus, with rotating schedules, you never get used to sleeping until you are off a show. You get Fridays where your day starts at 6 p.m., and then when you get off 12 to 14 hours later, have to turn back over for a 6 a.m. report on Monday. I love what I do, but the people who pretend it must be the easiest job don't really understand all the work that goes into the entertainment industry. Story 17. I signed up for trucking school thinking, I don't mind driving, I can drive trucks, it's just like driving a car but bigger. Man, no the fuck it is not. I'm about 30 hours out of 60 hours into the driving portion of school. I test out for my CDL in 2 weeks, and I am so fucking stressed every second I am in that truck. There is not one thing about driving a truck that is even remotely easy. It requires so much micromanagement of so many small different things. I'm really hoping I'm just inexperienced, and as more experience comes, things become more natural and second nature. But for now, my mind and also body are always on 10, constantly analyzing, constantly making micro adjustments, constantly stressed out. I knew it would be more challenging than I thought in my head, but I had no clue it would be this difficult. I have gained so much respect for truckers. There is no slack for them in any way, yet they are the backbone that keeps society functioning. Story 18, finance. It's a headache. Long hours. Your paycheck relies on other people doing their job right. People lie to you constantly, which to this day I don't understand. Like I am going to run your entire credit portfolio here in a bit. Why are you lying? Story 19, nursing. It does have its perks and benefits, but it used to be way better. We are dealing with much sicker patients and much more mental illness. We are expected to care for the same amount of patients, and oftentimes we cannot depend on support staff to do much for individual patients because they are running ragged from having too many patients assigned. Also, if we ask them to do a task and they forget or can't because they are too busy, it falls on our license if that patient wasn't turned, or the blood sugar wasn't done. The violence and emotional abuse is unmanageable. The benefits are getting worse and things taken away left and right. The burden of responsibility is crushing and spills over into your days off. You begin to dread work on your days off. I showed up one weekend shift and without any training or asking me to do it, I was assigned as charge nurse. The night charge handed it to me and said, "You'll be fine, you've got this." And I also was assigned patients. I had no idea how to charge. Story 20 Zookeeper. Want to have your passion for animals exploited so that some greedy fucks on the board can pocket most of the money and claim it's for animal care? Want to have to move all over the country to stay competitive in a job field that starts off paying $8 an hour if you're lucky after 4 years of school and an unpaid internship? Want to be part of an industry who has more rules protecting the animals that you're caring for than you as a worker, while still also not providing that quality of care for said animals at most zoos due to lack of funding? Want to be forced into working 80 hours a week during a pandemic because it's safer if we only have half of you working, and, well, someone has to care for the animals, without offering those people any kind of benefit for actually staying? Want to constantly get talked down to by everyone who's been there a day longer than you have? Or how about having to be told what to do by managers who have never worked in animal husbandry or care?